All right, flexing out bendy number 12. We're going to continue on our floor hip mobility sequencing, working on our internal and external rotation. So we'll get back down on the floor here, and we're going to pick up in that same position where we left off, which is the quasi shin box position. And there's probably a better term for it, but we'll work with it. So our focus here still is to have our torso facing forward and learning to dissociate between rotating at the or moving from the torso versus bringing the hips with it. Okay, so keep trying to keep the hips planted on the floor as much as possible. So the position where we left off was this quasi shin box, in which if we're going to set ourselves up from a cold position here, we have our one leg bent straight across the shin, closing in on that other bent leg. So if I didn't have the heels, it would be more of a flat-footed touch against my inner thigh. That back leg is bent such that you get your heel toward the butt as much as possible. And we're working on that back leg that's bent, the hip of that leg, okay? So inside here is where you should feel it. If you start feeling things on your glutes or in your back, that means we need to work on some glute stretches, and your erector spinae will have some stretches for those for sure. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just a warm up of rotating from side to side. Now we're not just rotating the hands, we're taking our entire torso with it, so your shoulders will move. So this does include, especially if we're keeping ourselves upright, this does include a bit of thoracic mobility as well. So just gently rotating and tapping your fingers where they land, just making sure that you're facing your entire chest, head, shoulders in that same direction while keeping upright. Once you've done that, you're going to check where you are right now before we do the stretching, which is you're going to take your hands to that back bent leg and figure out, can I touch my knees? Can I touch my shin, my ankle, my toes? Okay, how far can I touch? Okay, and then you might feel once you go too far, this leg starts to lift off. Okay, so establish where you kind of comfortably are, and then we're going to turn to our other side and lean. So the first part of the lean is to, again, try to keep this hip down, okay? If your butt cheek is off the floor for now, that's okay. But you want to then rotate through, tap the hands down first, okay? Then start walking your hand out until you can come down onto your elbow, okay? And if you start feeling it in this hip, that's your glutes that we need to stretch. All right, but you'll start going down, holding it in each position, and seeing if you could go down a little bit further until you could get your entire chest down to relax, okay? Hold it here for about 20 seconds, then come up. Now there's no point here in holding it for a super long time or going too fast, okay? We want to do about 20 seconds to come back and retest, okay? See if you could get a little bit more range, okay? And then repeat that, okay? Or we could do the transition, which is part of this drill. The transition is to simply shift the leg position without getting up. Now, initially, if you need your hands down, totally fine. Eventually, we're gonna do it hands free, okay? So all we're doing is straightening out that back leg to come up front, while at the same time, then we switch and swap this back leg. So I'm getting a little bit of a skidding across the mat with the shoes, but as smoothly as possible. Okay, so if you could do that stretch or do that transition. However you get there is how you get there for now. So same thing here. We have the same setup, trying to feel for any differences. And normally it'll be your stronger side that is tighter because it's usually doing more of the work, okay? So we'll do the same thing. We'll just rotate through the torso, just tapping down the fingertips. Always exhale at that end range. And then we'll test where we are with our ability to grab on or tap on to what position of the leg back here. Again, trying to keep our torso upright. Now we're going to turn to the other side and start walking those hands and the chest and the abs toward the ground and walking and walking and walking. Now, if you find that as you get here you have to round through in order to get down, then you've gone too far. So just stay on your hands versus coming down onto your forehead. All right, but hold that for 20 seconds. And or if it feels good, you know, go ahead and stay there longer. But these mobility drills are for the intended more as a warm-up or as part of an entire flow. So for those reasons, we don't need to stay here for a super long static hold amount of time, okay? So retest where you are, do it over, either all on one side or do the transition after each set and go for 2-3 sets, okay? So you would switch here and, you know, that wasn't very smooth, but try to be as smooth as possible. Use your hands if you need to, okay? So again, we're trying to make sure that we feel it on the hip that we're supposed to be working, okay? Which would be the hip of that back bent leg. So pay attention if instead you're feeling it here, or you have to lean forward, because in the starting position it's very likely that you don't feel anything, but if you can't even keep yourself upright and you're finding that you have to lean over here in order to stay in this position, then you know that you actually need this for sure. So staying upright is one of the key elements of this drill. And then hi Clooney, and then just working to see range improvement within this session, okay? Because we want to then go on into the workout and actually be able to use that range by bearing weight and increasing the strength, which will then help you improve your permanent range and mobility. Okay, all right. Look at this, look at this, look at this little kitty. He's playing with the little strings on the back of my boots. I realize I really don't have much clothing that doesn't have some sort of, like, you know, ribbon or tie or fringe or something.